This is the Bahamas Tonight, the Northern Edition. Good evening, all. I'm Shasheena Rolle. As always, it is so great to have you with us. Topping news, it was another rough day for employees of the Ministry of Education on Grand Bahama as workers tried to come to grips with the passing of Deputy Director of Education Sandra Edgecombe. Edgecombe was found unresponsive in her vehicle in the parking lot at the Ministry of Education yesterday morning. She died a short time later. Today, employees came together for a grief counseling session. Megan Shepherd was there.
The education community is still trying to come to grips with the sudden and devastating loss of veteran educator, Deputy Director of Education Sandra Edgecombe. A grief debriefing held this morning to help teachers, principals, and all in the Ministry of Education to deal with the feelings associated with such a shock. Longtime friend and colleague Mary Cooper reflecting on the legacy Edgecombe leaves behind. She says not only is this a loss for education in Grand Bahama and the Keys, but by extension, the country.
Mrs. Edgecombe was an educational leader extraordinaire. She loved being Deputy Director of Education. Mrs. Edgecombe had a great passion for her job and for education. She was a wonderful person, and we will all miss her greatly in this district.
The duo has been together for over 40 years, and Cooper says the bond started back in Teachers College. She recalls the final meeting she had with Mrs. Edgecombe.
Monday of this week, Mrs. Edgecombe decided that we weren't going to have a meeting in her office. She took us to Bell Channel, the two superintendents and our assistants. She took us to Bell Channel for breakfast so that we could go over all the arrangements, the reassignments of teachers for the new school year. And so to know that on Tuesday morning, she's no longer with us, it's a real shock, and it's painful.
Mistress Edgecombe will forever be known as Mother Blue Jay, and Principal Ivan Butler says Edgecombe instilled a certain pride in Blue Jay country.
She instilled in persons what it meant to be a proud Blue Jay. And so today there is still mourning on our campus. There is still concerns, comments, calls of condolences expressed from the community. And so we were just fortunate and blessed in the 8 Mile Rock area to have Ms. Edgecombe serve as the principal in that area.
Edgecombe will be missed by all throughout Grand Bahama, the Keys, and indeed the Bahamas. Megan Shepherd, ZNS Network News.
Well, today's grief counseling session bringing together teachers, Ministry of Education officials, and members of the clergy as they mourn the loss of the top education executive on Grand Bahama. Sandra Edgecombe was described as a woman who has touched the lives of thousands through her kindness and constant words of encouragement. Psychologist with the Ministry of Education, Pamela Mills, says Edgecombe's death was a devastating blow.
Grief is really a sad thing, and people grieve differently. But what we found is once people can get together and they have a common feature, they're talking about her, all the things she would have done, all the work she would have done, the people she would have touched, that when that common factor is there, people tend to feel more relaxed and more open. So in having these people who cared so much about her, the entire staff of the ministry and other persons here, we know that this is just the beginning of what's to come.
Namel says while persons grieve in different ways, it is important to come together and remember the fond memories. District Superintendent for East Grand Bahama, Mary Cooper, says although it is painful and hard to deal with, the grief session is a step towards healing.
A wonderful exercise And I thank Dr. Mills for organizing this exercise for us. We did come back yesterday from the hospital, and we were here for a while. And then this morning, this is a great help for us to heal us emotionally. It's going to be some time before we can get over it, but it's really good what's going on now in the room for all of us, because Ms. Edgecombe was someone you just had to love, and so she's going to be missed.
The untimely death of Deputy Director of Education Sandra Edgecombe, rocking an institution where she served for decades and helped to propel her to great prominence in the field of education. Now those whose lives she positively impacted are calling for her contributions in education to be recognized and her legacy to be honored in a tangible way. Joan Davis Rolle has this story.
I feel good.
It was a signature statement that for decades had become synonymous with Sandra Edgecombe. The fact of the matter is, on that fateful Tuesday morning, veteran educator turned Ministry of Education executive Sandra Edgecombe was not feeling good at all. Her sudden passing dealt a devastating blow to education, but more specifically, an institution known as Blue Jay Country, as officials at the 8 Mile Rock High School struggled to come to grips with the loss of a woman they affectionately called Mother Blue Jay. A day after her death, ZNS News visited the West Grand Bahama campus, and those who knew her best spoke about her shocking passing.
It actually hit me pretty hard because Mrs. Edgecombe would have had a part in my life also, being a former student here at 8 Mile Rock High School. She would have had a part in my development.
She's a pleasant person to work with. She's always here. She's always on time. 6:30 every morning, Miss Edgecombe was on this campus. You could afford to come in any time, Miss Edgecombe was here. 9, 10 o'clock in the night, she's just leaving. That was Miss Edgecombe.
She was a straightforward young lady that I know. I want to be like her. Everybody we look up to her, respect her.
Others, among them former students who are now educators at the institution, spoke in glowing terms as they reflected on Sandra Edgecombe's exemplary legacy.
She was not only good, she was great. You can have some men say, I don't just want to be a good man, I want to be a great man. And she was a great woman. Especially for this community, 8 Mile Rock. She's a great person, great personality. Show love to adults and children. And that's something that is missing out of this world today.
I remember a meeting in her office. I went to see her, and I was just discouraged about the whole education system, and she encouraged me. She said, just continue to press on. The kids need you, and you have a story to tell. So just share your story, just like how I shared my story. Share your story and encourage some child.
She always motivated persons to strive for the best and to reach for the highest.
She was a friend. She was a motivator, a supporter. She encouraged me. So she had a great impact on my life. I admired Mrs. Edgecombe.
In the wake of Mrs. Edgecombe's passing, persons are now calling for this institution where she served for decades as Mother Blue Jay to be named in her honor. Reporting for ZNS Network News, I'm Joan Davis Rolle.
And tributes continue to come in on the sudden passing of prominent educator Sandra Edgecombe. Tonight, the Member of Parliament for the West Grand Bahama District are among those paying homage. Member of Parliament for West Grand Bahama, the Honorable Obi Wilshcombe, says Sandra Edgecombe was the preeminent Blue Jay who made real the hopes and dreams of thousands as she admonished, encouraged, and nurtured young men and women to become citizens of purpose and commitment. Minister Wilshcombe says when tragedy struck, Edgecombe shared the pain of the parents. When the children cried, she cried, and when they celebrated, she led the parade. She was always there each and every day and with each and every step. Her voice was strong and her message was clear. It was a message of hope, he says, reminding our youth to embrace the opportunity of education and to fly high. The West Grand Bahama MP notes that Sandra Edgecombe became an iconic fixture of the education landscape in Grand Bahama. From east to west, she touched all. She sacrificed, she gave, she inspired, she loved, she made a difference. A Blue Jay, she will always be flying high above us. Wilshcombe says he celebrates her life. She was God's gift to us all. We thank God because our lives have been enriched because Sandra Edgecombe walked this way. Minister of Immigration and Foreign Affairs, the Honorable Fred Mitchell, also issuing a statement on the death of Sandra Edgecombe, the Deputy Director of Education. Mitchell says Edgecombe was a friend and a traveler in the journey of the progressive movement, and her passing is hard to absorb. The Immigration Minister says Edgecombe brought her love of life and of the Bahamas and its people to everything she did. Minister Mitchell says Edgecombe was the daughter-in-law of his late mentor in Parliament, Frank Edgecombe, and he worked with her on policy issues even when he served in opposition. Minister Mitchell says he gained great respect for Edgecombe's talent and her even-handedness, stating that she was a beloved fixture of the Grand Bahama scene who will be sorely missed. President of Creative Works Limited, Peter Adderley, also paying homage to fallen educator Sandra Edgecombe. Adderley says she went beyond the call of duty as principal of the 8 Mile Rock High School and held her own as an outstanding educator. Adderley notes that Edgecombe had more than an acute understanding of what students were doing in the classroom as she visited homes and got to know parents. Adderley says just as she lived, so she died, showing up to perform. He concludes by saying the Blue Jays have lost a wonderful mother, but the Ministry of Education and the Bahamas are better and stronger because of Sandra Edgecombe's passionate labor.
From the raisin gone too soon.
In other news, a local business establishment that has been a part of the Grand Bahama community for more than 4 decades is preparing to close its doors. Tonight, the French-Canadian owners who came to the Bahamas in 1973 and long-serving employees are saying farewell. Sabrina Brown reports.
The International Sewing Center has been a staple in the Grand Bahama community for 43 years, and ZNS News can confirm that the island's leading fabric store will be closing its doors for good in a matter of weeks.
We worked very hard, but we were so well received in the Bahamas with love and respect that our little business, mom-and-pop operation, it became almost like a family. The community became a family.
Owners Jacques and Alexandra Chenier say the decision is bittersweet and one that they have been contemplating for several years.
We are sad, but my wife and I have worked for 43 years. We have grandchildren we want to spend more time with. So we'll do like we've done, go and see them, help them, and still remain here.
We should have left probably 5-6 years ago, this business, but in our hearts we couldn't do it. And then with the economy in Freeport being so bad, we thought the 7 women who have been with us forever, they're going to be out on the street. How could we possibly live with ourselves?
Alexandra says they are grateful to their dedicated staff and members of the community for supporting them over the past 4 decades.
When you're a little ma-and-pa shop like ours, your customers become your family. Your staff becomes your family. And it doesn't matter whether you come in or buy. We want to know what's going on in your life. How are you? Are you sad? Come in. We'll cheer you up. We're a part of you.
Supervisor Maydon Roberts has been with the Sewing Center for 40 years, while Ruth Newman has given 20 years of service.
It's been wonderful 40 years, a wonderful 40 years. Working with Mr. and Mrs. Chenier, you know, they've been super bosses, and I truly thank God for them.
It has been a privilege of mine to be employed by the best boss in the whole world. It was a wonderful experience just getting to be so close with the clients. It was awesome for me.
The International Sewing Center will close its doors by the middle of May. Sabrina Brown, ZNS Network News.
Stay with us. There is more news right after this.